Imagine building something grand alongside your own father, working day and night, giving up on dreams, facing debts and humiliation, all for one common goal: turn the family into an empire. Now, imagine waking up one day and discovering that you've been kicked out of the very company you helped build, and the heir to everything you created is your brother. Would you keep fighting or give up on everything? My name is Kong Min-Ho. I'm 30 years old and the co-founder of one of the fastest growing tech startups in Seoul. But before all this, I was just an obedient son, raised to follow in my father's footsteps. For 10 years, I built this company with him, side by side, working through sleepless nights, facing crushing debt, and taking risks that nearly bankrupted us. But when the company finally took off and reached a multi-million-dollar valuation, he took everything away from me. He gave my position to my younger brother and kicked me out as if I had never been part of it. Would you trust your life and your dreams to someone, only to be betrayed by that very person? My story begins in a small room in the Gangnam district. My father was a retired engineer, and I was a young man with bold ideas about artificial intelligence. When I proposed we start a company, he laughed. But a week later, he came back with the partnership papers signed. That was the first and last real gesture of trust one ever received from him. For years, we worked as equals, or so I thought. I led the development of algorithms, managed the team, and drove innovation. He handled the investors and paperwork. My brother, Ji-hoon, was just a disinterested business student. He never cared about the company, never showed up, until everything changed. One day, the game shifted. We had just signed a multi-million-dollar contract with a Chinese telecommunications company. We were featured in magazines. International investors were reaching out. But inside the company, something had changed in my father's behavior. He started excluding me from decisions. He brought Ji-hoon to meetings. Little by little, I was being pushed out. When I confronted my father, he was blunt. "You're brilliant, Min-Ho, but Ji-hoon has the right profile to be CEO. He's more balanced." It felt like the ground crumbled beneath me. I spent sleepless nights trying to understand what I had done wrong. Then I received a call for a board meeting. I thought it would be a discussion about shared leadership, but when I entered the room, it felt like a courtroom. My father, my brother, and 2 board members voted to remove me from my position as co-founder. They claimed I was unstable, too daring, and a risk to the company's image. My world collapsed. I asked to speak with my father privately. I reminded him who wrote the first lines of code for our platform, who slept on the office floor when we couldn't even afford rent. He looked at me coldly and said, "That's in the past. Now is the time for stability." I left with nothing. No shares, no title, no salary, and with a legal warning not to use any ideas from the original company. Can you imagine being expelled from your own creation? In the days that followed, I fell into a deep depression. But something inside me refused to give up. I started writing, planning, studying. I remember the mistakes I had made and the blind spots that made me trust too easily. In Korea, family means everything. And for me, family was also my business. But that betrayal taught me, even the closest person can become your enemy when money is involved. Today, I share this story not out of revenge, but so you understand, trust has limits, and blood is no guarantee of loyalty. This was just the beginning of the turning point that would change my life forever. 1 year later, Suk-jin's new company was already considered one of the most promising in South Korea. His artificial intelligence based solution was revolutionizing the way large corporations understood Asian consumer behavior. He had already signed contracts with 3 multinational conglomerates. He was, once again, a millionaire. But this time, money wasn't the main thing. It was respect. During an interview, he was asked, "How do you feel seeing your old company in decline?" He smiled and replied, "I don't look back." But time reveals who truly built the empire. The response went viral. The public, who had previously been unaware of the behind-the-scenes story of Suk-jin's fall, began to take his side. Old videos showing his leadership started to circulate. On tech forums, experts debated how he had managed to rise again from nothing. Min-Jae, on the other hand, was collapsing. The old company had lost its biggest contract with an American giant. The board was pressuring their father, demanding the resignation of his son. For the first time, the patriarch found himself facing a difficult decision. In a closed-door meeting, he said, "I made a mistake." Min-Jae looked at his father, eyes filled with tears. "You're going to remove me?" "No, you're going to step down voluntarily. The family cannot go down completely." That same day, Min-Jae's resignation was announced, but it was already too late. The company's reputation was ruined. The shareholders voted to proceed with a merger to avoid bankruptcy. And in a twist of fate, the company interested in acquiring Suk-jin's former business was one of the partners of his new venture. He was invited to lead the merger. On paper, it was an irresistible offer. But to Suk-jin, it was more than just a business deal. It was a reunion with his own story. The offer was on the table. Suk-jin could buy the company that was once his, but he hesitated. Not out of pride, out of principle. He gathered his team and said, "I want each of you to vote. This company belongs to all of us now. Do you believe we should take over that failing business?" The majority voted against it. The culture of the new company was different. Free, innovative, unburdened by the authoritarian decisions of the past. But Suk-jin still decided to speak with the president of the partner company interested in the merger. "I'll only agree to lead the merger if I can keep my team the way it is, without the ghost of the past." The deal was sealed. The following week, the press announced, Suk-jin was back, but now bigger than ever, not as an heir, not as a son, but as the leader of a new business model. When his father saw the news, he felt a mix of pride and regret. He called Suk-jin. "Son, you won." Suk-jin replied, "I just rebuilt what was rightfully mine, but this time I did it my way." He hung up. He didn't feel anger, only relief. In the new company building, they installed a plaque that read, "When they try to bring you down, remember, deep roots do not fear the wind." Today, Suk-jin is a global reference in technological innovation. He gives lectures, mentors young entrepreneurs, and emphasizes the importance of reading every clause before signing a contract. And he never set foot in his father's house again. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment. Would you have forgiven your father and brother? Or would you have done what Suk-jin did?